All right, let's get started. So, today's guest is someone who has dedicated the majority of her life to being of service to humanity. She's a QHHT hypnotherapist, a Reiki Master, and an intuitive healer. She now dedicates her time to helping others awaken to who they truly are and guides individuals on a path to reconnect with their divine, meet their guardian angels, explore past lives, and most importantly, heal themselves. She's on a mission to remind the world of the power each one of us holds within ourselves. She's an example of someone utilizing her gifts to bring out her passion, which ultimately provides her with purpose. It's a pleasure to introduce Stefanie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
I'm excited as well. I'm really excited to actually get into the whole QHHT thing. So I guess we'll start there. What does that stand for and what is it?
Well, it QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. It was actually a hypnosis technique that was created by Dolores Cannon, who has, left this plane. But she actually has written many books about this technique. She started out, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but she started out um, working with her husband. He was a hypnotherapist that worked for the Army. I think it was probably in the 50s. And she helped him with some of the cases that he had. And they ran into one case in particular, a woman that was having a lot of trouble losing weight. And so her physician suggested, oh, let's send her over to the hypnotherapist, see if they can do anything. And she dropped into a very somnambulistic state, which is almost under hypnosis. She immediately fell into theta and she started talking about past, like what they perceived as past lives. And as she was discussing these past lives, they were able to verify a lot of her past lives through historical records. And so from there, it just kind of opened up. And she, went on to not only write books, but she opened schools. She's done, her and her daughter have done a ton of education and kind of taken this whole thing forward. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of it. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Uh,
I
no,
have to like turn my phone down because my phone will keep verifying. My guardian angels will just keep saying, yep, yep, that's right, that's right. So,
Divine guidance. That's beautiful. I'm a huge fan of Dolores Cannon's work. I used to dig deep into her writings. She provided, great perspective in regards to the potential of what happens after death, right? And it was very interesting to hear her explore the different scenarios of what people experience. So, with your personal experience, what happens after death?
well, it's just a transformation. Um, it's basically kind of like a light switch. You leave your body and your soul goes on. Whether I shouldn't say it's like, just like this. But after death, you kind of choose. You can kind of hang out on this plane. People, you probably know them as ghosts or entities that kind of stay in this plane. A few of them do, but most of them transition and they go to back to source or heaven. Um, and at that point, there's many different variations that can occur. Um, but the typical variation is they go there, you go through kind of a healing process. where, if you, died traumatically, if you had a lot of things go on in your life, your guardian angels, your guides, beings work with you to kind of reinstate, bring that soul kind of back to its whole original form. And then you do a review of life, kind of what you would expect. This is one thing. The one thing with the review of life, though, is, and I explain this to people all the time, there's actually no judgment. Whatever you have done or whatever has occurred, everything is seen. Okay, so every single thing is seen. So nobody's sitting up there saying, "Wow, you really messed that up," or "Look at this, you could have done it this way." But you kind of review, your life as a learning tool, and you get to see exactly what it was that maybe led you down different roads. Um, things you could have done differently, but mostly how you have affected other people and, what the things in your life did, um, that changed, the way other people developed in their lives. So, and then after that, you go on. Sometimes, most of the time, we all have a bunch of karma to clean up. So we need to come back and we make a better plan. And we kind of do that over and over again until we wake up and start to remember exactly what it is and who it is that we are, which is, most importantly, we're spiritual beings that are having a human experience here that we have planned for ourselves.
Yeah. You know, I can understand the perspective that we're given that in that life review, I guess from what I gathered previously, is that we put ourselves in the shoes of everyone that we came in contact with because everyone is a mirror. And so we feel the effects of whatever action we took towards them. And in a way, that's scary, but it's also beautiful. um, I guess my thing is when I was doing some research into Dolores Cannon's work, she mentioned that right after death, right after the soul leaves the body, the experience you have is based on your beliefs at that current moment. Like if you have religious beliefs, then that is what you will manifest for yourself. Do you agree with that?
In part, somewhat. Um, so yes and no. It's not quite that cut and dry. If you have really, really deep religious beliefs, that, you are going to go to hell or something like that, you can place yourself in kind of that state. Your guardian angels and guides are always there. Uh, and they're urging you like, hey, you don't have to be here. We don't have to do this type of thing. But there's a lot of religious people that have really felt as though, um, they didn't maybe do the best job on this plane. And when you leave your body, your guardian angels and guides are kind of there to, help you remember. So, yes, yes, that does happen. You can manifest those case scenarios, but it's not quite as black and white as just that.
No, I can understand that. If I were to die in this timeline, would I die in every other timeline?
Not instantaneously. When you come in, you actually make a plan and you've already made a plan on exiting and how you're going to exit. Not down to like, I'm going to start on fire, okay? But what the experience will be, what it's meant to trigger within you, what it's meant to trigger with people around you. That's why, suicide is such a frowned upon thing because uh, when leave yourself, when you make that conscious choice all of a sudden to just commit suicide, that actually has such a huge adverse reaction throughout each timeline and reverberates.
Do you feel that that may have a larger karmic debt?
So karma isn't exactly like, I push you and then, you push me back later on. Okay. Karma is when you come in, you actually sit down with all the people, every single person that's in your life, even those people that you cannot stand, even the ones that have done you dirty, and you make a plan. And the plan is you're going to teach one another. And if, you're going to teach and there's going to be learnings that go on between all of these people. Now, uh, say you're going down the road and you're just not getting, you're not getting the lesson, right? Maybe you are meant to learn to love yourself and you know, you're in a relationship with someone that is like, is trying to force you to love yourself by doing all of these really mean things, right? Cheating on you, lying to you, whatever that may be. And that person that's doing that is incurring karma at that time. And even though you and that individual, I'm just going to say wife and husband, um, even though wife and husband, that person that's cheating and lying and doing whatever has agreed to uh, help you learn to love yourself by maybe leaving a relationship that isn't a loving relationship. Nobody agreed to like the really mean, like cheating and lying and things. Okay. There's other ways to, disregard a person. So that person is building up karma during that situation. During that time, as that individual is building karma, when it does end, when you do finally leave, that karma has to be paid off. Now, it doesn't have to be paid off to you. It doesn't have to be paid off to the individual that, it's not a tit for tat thing. That person, all of the anguish and pain that they caused someone else they're going to have to feel that as well. And so something in their life will make them feel those exact types of feelings, whether it's, losing a job, losing a big financial thing, having someone cheat on them, whatever it is, they will have to relive those same feelings that they caused that other individual. So that is what a karma is. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean because you did, it's not tit for tat. It's just they have to repay that to you, to the universe.
I'm following you.
Right.
Why would someone seek out QHHT? What benefit would someone be looking to get from that?
Well, a lot of the people that I work with they have different they come in for many different reasons. So they come in they have a feeling that they don't know who they are. They've never belonged. Uh, they struggle with depression or anxiety. They've seen something in life that they don't understand, like an alien, or, they have like some strange memory of something. They are they have like a lot of trauma, or they have a lot of emotional issues, or they have some sort of disease, cancer. They have to have a surgical procedure, pretty much any type of disease. So really anything that is affecting your physical being, or you want to have a past life, a QHHT hypnotherapist can help you.
If you want to review like past lives that you've had that maybe are connected to something you're going through in this life.
Well, they typically always are the ones you jump into, yes. But I do have people that I'll do a class where you can meet a guardian angel and you can experience a past life. And in those situations, it's just they actually kind of experience just one of their past lives that typically is non-relatable to what's going on in their current life. Sometimes it is. And then that's when they do an introduction to their guardian angel, who at the time, can go back and even talk to them about, why they saw what they saw, or typically they have a gift for the individual and or something they need to say. So
Do you think that each of us are able to directly tap into our guardian angel, or is it just easier for us to speak with our words versus the synchronicities that we're consistently getting?
your guardian angels and guides are always, and I mean every second, they're with you. Okay. They're not, um, they see you as people get kind of creeped out about that. So I'm just going to explain this. Um, they see you as what you truly are, an energy source. So when they see your energetic being. Okay. They can see this physical side, but they don't, because this is a really dense area. Um, but they're always here. They're right with you. And if you ever want to talk with them, you can use your mind, you can use your words. The more you interact with them, the more, like understanding you can have between the two of you. They really want to have a relationship with you because they came here with you. The day that you came into this world, they were here, and will be with you through the end and after. And they love you. I mean, they love you beyond, anything you can think of. So they want to have more of a relationship with you, which is why we have, people that you're almost will see like kind of as they're awakening, and we kind of have the Great Awakening happening right now, with everything that's going on with the earth. You'll see that people can almost even more easily tap into their guardian angels, talk with them, hear them, have messages from them. The biggest thing I tell people to understand, and this is kind of hard to do, but once you start doing it, then you'll be like, oh my gosh, this really makes sense. So one, pay attention to the numbers, because the universe communicates in numerics. And so just pay attention to the numbers, and you'll start seeing some repeating numbers, or you'll start seeing numbers that are just meant for you. And then when you start paying attention to those, begin to realize that there are no coincidences. Okay. A lot of times um, I've gotten into doing oracle readings, and I will, pull a card, and I'll look at the card. And the first thing that my eyes will be drawn to is maybe there is a bunch of circles on the card. And then I'll kind of get a feeling like somebody is, thinking in circles. And I'll have different confirmations happen. Like my dog will suddenly run in a circle, or I'll look out the window and a bird will be flying in a circle. You know what I mean? So it's like they set a lot of areas for us to be able to get the message. They work, outside of our exterior. And when we're not getting it outside of us and they're running around juggling all of nature and everything around us, they work through our physical being for us to understand the message.
Yeah, I've personally experienced that myself. I think that my connection to my higher mind started through numbers. So in my younger years, I would always see 9/11 on the clock. I thought at first that it was just because I was in New York when, that whole situation had happened with September 11th. So I figured, it's just a coincidence. I'm always seeing this time. And then you speak to others and they kind of see 9/11 as well. And you guys speak about it, but it's never anything other than just, oh, what a coincidence, right? So I continued about life, ignoring the numbers, and then I started seeing 1111. 1111 was also one that you can kind of say is coincidental because it's one of those, oh, it's 1111, make a wish kind of thing, right? So you never really give it any thought. But for whatever reason, I found myself several years back really being called to the numbers again. And so I would continue to see the same repeating numbers in my reality. And they weren't just, let's say, master numbers, right? It wasn't just 11 or 22, 33. It was very specific numbers that I would see on the clock, on a license plate, on an exit, on a billboard. Now, from, I guess, the human mind, you're kind of just like, oh, what a coincidence. But what I started to do was actually look up the meaning as to why I was seeing these numbers. So I got into this pattern of just utilizing Google and just literally writing out what is the spiritual significance of the number blah, 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 right? And what would come to me was so on point that it's incredible. So I got into this habit of doing that. So I found out that in a way, I'm creating that myself, but through my higher mind. So it was a way, like a tool for me to get some guidance from my higher mind. And it helped me out through some tough times that I've had, like through the transition period of the corporate me into this new me, let's just say, right? That had allowed me to take the steps necessary, the leaps of faith necessary through that guidance of what I was reading. Now, what I do is when I do speak to others about this, I let them know that this is just a tool that you can choose to have. This is not a definite way that your angels are going to talk to you because your guides and your angels are going to speak to you with what they resonate with you on. If you resonate with the numbers and they catch your attention, then they'll utilize that. Also, when you're doing these searches on Google, let's say for example, I'm the believer that everything that is created in your reality is created by your own mind. So what you're actually seeing, like whatever link you want to click on, you can click on the first link or the 10th link. Whatever link you're clicking on is the link that you actually need to be reading. And that has helped me greatly. So I would definitely recommend anyone that is seeing repeating numbers, take a second to look into it, Google it, and you will be amazed by what you're reading.
100%. I tell people the same thing. I typically tell people if you're seeing a number over and over again, you can stop, you can definitely use Google. I said you can stop and you can always think, what was I just thinking about? A lot of times it's related to what you were just thinking about, but it always is set up just for you. Okay. It's specific to you and your life experience and how you view things. And yes, you create your own reality. I have, for myself, I communicate with my guardian angels through numbers, through different synchronicities, through sometimes they come through people. A lot of times through Reiki, just many different things. And I'm always telling them, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Talk to me how I appear in the night, whatever. So they're very comfortable to coming through in whatever way because they know I always want them to talk to me. So
And there's a dangerous part to this as well, because I found myself at a certain point relying on it a bit too much, where I think I kind of got lost in the sauce, right? Where I think our guides are there to be just that, to guide us, but they're not here to play this game out for us, right? We are responsible for our reality. They're there, of course, to assist us and provide us with guidance as necessary. But I think that if we lean into it too much, we're just gonna kind of lose the beauty in the unexpectedness of life, right? So the numbers can eventually turn into, let's say, tarot cards, where now you're giving all of your attention to whatever this person is saying to you per the cards. And now you're kind of getting too much, you're kind of getting information overload rather than just taking everything at face value and doing what you can to perceive what's going to be upcoming, let's just say. Do you feel that there may be a downside to kind of going a little too deep, or when you're dealing with your higher self, there's no need to worry, just keep doing your thing if you resonate with it?
I think I think you're very on point with that. And, um, what you can do, and what I tell people too, is that, tarot, is reading different timelines. It's reading many timelines. And as you're evolving spiritually, you're going to grow beyond those timelines. So some of those things are not going to apply at all. You should never, ever base your life on, cards or whatever. For me, I love having my guardian angels around just to chit chat with because I'm a very huge extrovert, but when I'm introverted, I love to kind of have them around. But they are only there to help guide. They're not meant to tell me how to live my life. They're not meant to, you know, I can ask them for guidance, but they're not going to say, yes, you should go to the store today. Yes, you should do this. We have to make up our mind for ourselves. I tell them what I want in life, which is really, you talk with your guardian angels or your guides, you tell them what you want, and then let it go as far as a manifestation, and you allow them to do their busy work of going behind the scenes and opening the doors. And then as those doors open, you have the option to go through them if you want.
I can agree. I think that there is that fine line where they're there to help once again, but they also can't impede on your free will, right? There's the beauty in life where we have the free will to do as we please, and I think that their main priority, besides guiding us, is to make sure that we use our free will.
Oh, yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, you can always ask your guardian angels and guides for help. But they're not going to do it for you. I mean, they're going to say, okay, well, she needs help or he needs help, in a financial way. So they will help with an opportunity to come about where, maybe a job will open up or something, but they're not going to do the job for you. They'll give you areas where you can continue to, um, grow and learn, but you're the one that has to do the work. So.
Yeah, and there's a beauty in that, putting in the action. Because at the end of the day, yes, it would be nice to just magically just receive whatever you're desiring, but really you want to enjoy the journey. Always at the end of the day, when you review the journey of where you are now and the journey that it took for you to get there, you really enjoyed those moments. Like, yes, they were difficult, but you made it out of it. So there's a beauty in that, of course. I guess the question that really came to my mind was they are consistently speaking with us, but for someone who's not in tune with those signs, those synchronicities, they're not just yet seeing it. What advice would you give to them?
If you want to be, you can be. I mean, all you have to do, there's a lot of people, I ran into, this is kind of a funny story. I was at a conference in North Carolina about 4 months ago. And I was at the hotel and I was in line and getting breakfast. And there was this woman in front of me, and she just turned around and started chatting with me. And I know, because there are no coincidences in the world, that there was a reason that she was chatting with me. And so I listened. And I tell people the first, you're part of like understanding that we are spiritual beings, that are all connected, is being present. That's really important, every single day in what we're doing. And so when she started talking with me, I was listening to her. She was telling me about her vacation. She was really excited. And then she said, "What is it that you do? And how often do you just stop and ask someone, what do you do that's in line?" That really never happens. So I knew that it was probably one of her guides urging her. And so told her what I did. And she was kind of like a little bit stunned, a little bit shocked, a little bit, whatever. And she's waiting for her omelet to be done. And she said, "Wow, I'd really like to be able to talk to my guides or my guardian angels. I just don't know if that's possible." And I said, "You know what? All I need you to do is just accept it. Just accept that there's something beyond today. And I guarantee if you start looking around, you will see repeating numbers after you leave this conversation. And she's like, really? And I said, all you have to do is look. That's it. You don't have to get nothing fancy, anything like that. I just want you to look. And I ran into her the next day and she was, I mean, she ran up to me and she said, I keep seeing the number 222. I mean, she just was like, it's on license plates, it's on cars, it's on buses, it was on the road. And I told her that's just your team letting you know, hey, we're here for you. We are down for you, girl, and we've got you. And I said, the more you start saying using gratitude and saying, hey, thanks for that message. I'll take another, please. And the more you kind of start developing that relationship, the more they'll come.
I agree. The stronger the signal will become. If they see that
Mhm.
you're in tune, I think that they, in a way, at least from my experience, what I see, what I feel is that once they see that the connection has been made, like, oh, he's listening, they'll send you, other ideas for other tools and methods, right? So I have several different tools that I utilize when I just need some guidance. Like, it doesn't have to be anything major. It can literally just assist me in making a decision. It doesn't really matter what decision I make, but I just feel a little better. I'll give you an example. I flip a coin. It's the most beautiful way for me to just get my ass to do something. I have to make a decision. Let me just flip a coin because either which way, I'm gonna have to do one or the other. And so I put my trust in my higher self and my guides to allow the energy that they want to bring through me through that coin. So I simply say a simple question, yes or no, and I flip that coin. I'm telling you that if not all the time, the majority of the times, it worked out exactly how it needed to work out. And it's the beautiful thing. Like you can continue to, it doesn't have to just be the numbers. You are the creator of your reality. So you can choose whatever tool you'd like for them to use. You can use a pendulum, for example, anything you'd like. I think they actually look forward to it, right? It's just more ways for them to connect with you.
Yes, that's exactly it. We actually
How,
had a session. Oh, go ahead.
please do. Please go ahead.
We had a session where, and I belong to a big QHHT group, and one of we all had kind of this in-depth conversation about DNA structure and that sort of thing. And there was a group of guardian angels that had come through, and they were speaking through one of the clients and saying that, you know, they're so excited because they have waited so long for not only the ascension of the earth, but because our DNA has been kind of upgrading with each generation. So our light could be more expansive within us, our soul could take on more. And now we've kind of come to this area where communication with them is pretty free flowing for anyone that wants to communicate with them. And they were just like, that was the one they had said in the session. That was the one thing that they've asked for because, they've been incarnating with you this whole time over and over again. And they're like, oh my gosh, and trying to get your attention, like, you're way off path. Look over here. You don't have to make it so hard on yourself. And so this is a really joyous event. They're excited.
Yeah. How did you find yourself getting into this QHHT work?
Um, well, it started out probably about a year and a half ago. Um, I had really I'd gone through, which a lot of healers do, a lot of people in life that kind of get into this healing path. I'd gone through kind of a whole group of trauma things. I lost a lot of my family. My parents had passed away. My mom, my stepdad, my dad. There had been, I'd had a very traumatizing divorce. A lot of things happened just in a 5-year period, and it snapped me awake. I started my awakening. Oh, I'm sorry, just one second. After all that had happened, um, it had kind of, kind of snapped me into my awakening. And I started dreaming about the word Reiki. I never heard what Reiki, I didn't know what Reiki was. I wasn't sure what the word was because I kept seeing it in a dream. And I thought, well, maybe I'd better, look into that, whatever it is. I attended a couple of Reiki sessions and I felt so amazing after going to Reiki that I decided to learn Reiki, which came very, very easily to me. So much so that the woman that was teaching me, the Reiki Master, was like, wow. I mean, she goes, I've actually never, I've been doing this my whole life. And she's like, I've never ever met a person like you. She's like, you're just very expansive. Anyway, and then as I was going through finishing my master's and my Reiki masters, my phone kept like showing this QHHT, like these odd recordings on it on YouTube and every time I'd open my phone, it was like my phone was like something was wrong with it because I kept having all these advertisements. And so I started reading about it and I thought, huh, that's kind of cool. Like if this is all true, this seems really interesting. And I started taking the classes, and for me, the classes were so easy. And not only that, but as I started really researching, and I had been in healthcare for about 26 years, much longer. I'd started out when I was 15 years old, working as a certified nursing assistant, gone on to work with autistic adults. Started my RN degree and then decided I'd be better in management because I'm a pretty good leader. And then, I was managing clinics and working with surgeons and that sort of thing for about 26 years. And I just, it all really made sense to me because healthcare for me never really made sense. I didn't, I would research and research and read and, you know, go through every single avenue I could possibly go through, and none of it ever added up. Like I was like, I just when I would look at the genetics of humans, when I would look at read case studies, I just couldn't understand why they were using, the types of drugs they were using that were so counterintuitive to our genetic makeup. It just didn't make any sense to me. But all of a sudden, when I started reading, and really getting into quantum healing hypnosis and how, our bodies are actually communication vessels and how disease really works within ourselves and that we could cure ourselves. And there were so many documented cases. I was like, yes, this is for me. Like, this really, really makes sense. And so I just really went head into it. And the more I got into it, the more I started connecting with people through these sessions, talking with, the higher self. And then, of course, I still practice Reiki. I became even more connected. And I just kept getting I mean, it was almost like I would wake up in the morning and something I didn't understand the day before, I just completely knew. I understood it. And I thought, you know, this is really, this is really true. Yeah, it still really blows my mind, but it's like, it's almost like when you let the genie out of the bottle. Um, it's almost you go into a state of kind of awe. And I think I'm always like that. I'm just wow. I'm always saying, wow, that's so cool. Wow, and I learn something new every day. So
What exactly is Reiki? If you can paint a picture starting from the beginning and kind of just allow us to know how does it look, what is it in its true form, what can it do for a person?
So we have several chakra points throughout our body. Sometimes, oftentimes, these become kind of clogged with like different types of energies. I explain energy and emotions a little bit the same way because I feel like they really play hand in hand, very, very much so. They're very related. Um, Different types of energies, like dense energies, are actually created from emotional blocks that happen throughout your life, traumas, things you're not talking about. Um, Sometimes injuries, like physical injuries to your body, can cause like an area to have an energetic block in it. What I do is, and what most Reiki, well, all Reiki people do, is we pull energy from the earth because that is the biggest energetic source and help push that through you to clear out those blocks and remove them. And we kind of move around and we're able to do that, um, from head to toe in different areas of your body. And as we're doing that, because we're in that flow state where we're pushing energy through, we're pulling energy out, we're kind of grounding you, that is kind of, it's forcing us to be in a higher state of vibration, which, brings in, we're more noticeable, I guess I would say, to like guardian angels, guides, spirits. Um, a lot of times, um, like someone will come through who has passed away, because they're like, oh, there's someone right there. I have a message for the person that you're working with, or or whatever. And so, during those sessions when we're working with people, a lot of things will start to come up. And Reiki is actually where I learned how to channel. And and that's just come about in the last few months. So, and that's been really cool too.
I think it's pretty cool that you have just recently started to tap into the ability to channel. What exactly are you starting to see? How do you know that it's something that you're developing?
I, so a lot of times what I'll do is, when I have someone on the table, the first thing I start to do is, when I'm performing Reiki, is I'm kind of talking with my guardian angels and their guardian. So I am, saying, you know, feel free to step in. A lot of times I'll say, if you need to speak, if there's something you need to say, and I'm saying this in my mind, if there's something you have for this person, feel free to step in at any point. I'm happy to be a channel for you. And uh, a lot of times what happens is, sometimes it happens differently with different people. So I'll give you some scenarios. As I was working with this one woman, all of a sudden, um, I kept feeling like when you're doing Reiki, you can really feel energy. It's almost like, I mean, it doesn't feel like if you were outside and the wind was blowing really hard against you and you were pushing your hands slowly out, you can feel kind of that barrier. That's how I would explain energy blocks, is that it's kind of like a push. And so I was working with this one woman and I wasn't feeling anything. I was kind of like moving, up and down her body, and it felt kind of like a dead person. I said to her, um, I said, are you trying to hide something from me? Because typically when people are really, really scared, they'll kind of cocoon themselves. They don't know they're doing it, but they'll like just put an energetic bubble around themselves. And she's like, no. And I said, okay. And I started trying to talk with her guardian angels in my mind. I can't hear them, but I was saying, hey, if you're here and it's okay. And as I was saying that, all of a sudden, it felt as though I was running my hands down feathers. And I could feel feathers around her. And I realized that she had a guardian angel laying directly beneath her that had its wings completely folded around her tightly. And as soon as I thought that in my mind, my cell phone and a couple of other cell phones went ding, 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 like kind of in a row, telling me like, yes, you're exactly right. Um, and so I said to her, so I started talking to her. I said, what are you scared of? And I said, this is what's going on. You have a guardian angel laying underneath you who is protecting you and is like very tightly has its wings wrapped around you. So I said, that tells me that you're really scared about something. Like you're very nervous. And as she started to talk, I could literally feel those, like it was almost like the angel like stretch its wings out, like, oh. Thank you. Like like opened him up. And she started telling me about, she didn't ever feel like she had a voice and she was very scared of the world and she was always very scared to talk and things like. So that was one case scenario. I had another where when I was doing Reiki, um, I didn't have an angel come in. I actually had someone's higher self come in. And I knew it was the higher self because when it came in, her higher self, Mm. It was me in the room, and there was other people doing Reiki in a couple other rooms because we were doing a big group session. And people started coming out of the room and saying, "What is that?" They were kind of stunned by the energy force, and you could feel the whole room like get extremely. I mean, it was like it felt almost like this sounds really weird. It's the only way I can explain it. It feels like a stretching
Mhm.
of, I don't know, an area. That's the only way I can explain it. And when her higher self came in, I kept saying to, whatever was coming in, I wasn't sure at the time, but I knew it was that when it did come in, I kept saying, you can use my body as a vessel, you can speak through me. And it did. And I don't remember what was all said, but it was very blunt with her. It was like, I've been working with you and you keep asking me this question, this question, this question, this question. And I keep telling you, that you should do this and this and this. And you then turn around and do this, this, and this. And that's why, your knees are having problems, your back is having problems, and it really was blunt and straight to the point and said, you keep asking me to help you and I'm trying, but you're not listening. And the lady on the table just started crying and she said, yes, that is correct. I have been trying to work with my higher self and I know these things. And so I don't know, I kind of got off on a tangent, but
No,
that's
it's okay. I'm with you.
yeah, that's a little bit of the channeling that I've been doing more recently. And because I've been doing that and because I'm really trusting in the process, uh, it's really helped me in, you know, when I do oracle decks and things like that, because I can really feel that energy even more so now than I could months prior. So
When you tap into this energy, when you're having these sessions, is it common, I guess, is it more common that the angels come in rather than the higher self?
I really think it's whatever is needed for the client. A lot of times I have angels come in, a lot of times. Um, Even when will meet sometimes with people and they just want to talk about, they don't want to have a hypnotherapy session. They just want to talk about, they've had something in their life happen that they have questions about, and they don't understand. Like, why did why did this happen or whatever? Or um, they have a question about um, upcoming something in the world. As I'm talking with them, guardian angels are typically who do come through and work with me. And, you can feel them almost enter the room. I mean, it's when people are with me, they kind of start looking around nervously because they haven't felt that before. And I know it's them because guardian angels and guides always feel the same way to me. They feel um, like a very like a very respectful presence, I guess I would say. It's almost like having, um, when you were in kindergarten and that teacher walked in and you're like, oh, that's that's kind of what the feeling is. And then a lot of sparkliness is what it feels like too.
You had mentioned oracle cards earlier, and I've, I've dabbled with oracle cards, but I don't really quite understand really, like, let's just say, what is the difference if someone were to never have tried either or? How would you explain the difference between the tarot deck and the oracle deck?
The tarot deck is a little bit more specific as far as you would pull, several cards out that, it has like uh, it's a really more of a detailed explanation to a timeline. Like these events are set to happen, if you don't change X, Y, or Z, or these events have happened. It's kind of a detailed record. It doesn't ever mean per se that they will happen, but because it is reading different timelines, but it's pretty close. Oracle cards are more of like, I would say you have more of a broader kind of, it feels like this is going on type thing. Some people are really good at Oracle cards and they can look at a card and say, you got up this morning and ate eggs for breakfast and this and this and this, and you're going on with your day. I haven't gotten to that point yet. But to me, I guess to me, I look at Oracle cards and maybe someone else would explain it differently, but I look at them, I guess, in a more positive way. 'Cause sometimes tarot can get a little bit, you know, if you don't do this, this is going to happen type thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I guess my confusion with the oracle cards, or anyone really trying to translate them is they're all so different, right? Because when you have a tarot deck, they may be a little bit different in terms of design, but you're still gonna have the basic cards that come out. With the oracle cards, you have so many different things. It's quite amazing. I guess it's kind of like up for interpretation.
it is. And that's exactly it. I can look at the same card 2 days in a row and get something totally different from it. And what it is it's understanding those synchronicities and signs. Um, like the first thing I do is, because I'm an extreme empath, I try to feel into whatever energy is needing to be portrayed or discussed with the oracle card. And then that kind of I hold that feeling, and then that draws me to different areas on the card. What the card looks like today with this energy may look different tomorrow with a different energy. So you could actually just use a deck of playing cards. Um, it's kind of just a security blanket, I guess.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So, do you feel now, I guess, because things are kind of coming together with who you're here to be, I guess, or who your heart desires to be, do you feel that maybe you were born for this and you're just now tapping into this? Like, have you always maybe been a little more tapped in than the average person?
Oh, looking back, yes. I mean, now that I've gone through my spiritual awakening, I look back and I remember instances where I would talk to my mom about, um, just things that I didn't understand. Like one, I could understand animals. I didn't, and it was strange because animals would always gravitate towards me. And my, people in my life as a kid would see it. And I felt like I very much understood them. Like, not that they would say, "Good morning, Stephanie," but I could understand and feel their emotions. And my mom was always like, "Well, I believe you." And she did, but she's like, "Don't tell people about that." And then, as I grew up as a kid, when I mean, my mom was religious and not hardcore, but, we did the church and everything, and I did all the Bible school. And I would go to Bible school and I could not get it. Like, I would read the Bible. And they would tell me, okay, this is what this interpretation means in the Bible. And I would sit there shaking my head, like, no, and they would read it over and over again. And I would say, it means this. Like, I just couldn't understand why any religion would portray God or angels or anybody as these vengeful, angry things. And I certainly didn't understand hell. I mean, it scared me, but I kept thinking, I don't get it. Like it, it just didn't make sense. And I knew things. I just knew things that other kids didn't know about people. I could feel other people very, very easily. I wouldn't have to ask someone if they were sad. I didn't have to ever ask anyone how they felt because I just knew. I just absolutely, I could feel them. And, and that, growing up that way and not having anyone to talk to as you're growing up was it was really, really difficult because for some reason I got confused at some point in my life. And because, I thought that my gifts, to help people heal meant that I had to take away other people's lessons and do them for them. So I spent a long, many, many years um, with a lot of people that I was trying to force heal. I was like, oh my gosh, you have an alcohol problem, or you have a drug problem, or you have a depression problem, or everything in the world is, you have no accountability. Let me take all of that away from you and solve it. And, I would fail time and time and time and time again. And every time I failed, I would be so frustrated. Like, why? I don't understand. And I always really did feel like I had something because I would try to explain it to people who were religious, and they would just stare at me like, you know, you're crazy.
Yeah, you've done
Now,
voodoo.
yeah, now I understand what, I was really meant to do was to help people understand who they really are. That, I don't have to take their lessons away, but I can be supportive through their journey and help them understand that they are 100% control of everything in their life, that they can create their own reality, that they can heal themselves physically, that they're never alone. We never have to have these horrible parts in life happen to us. So,
So, in a sense, I guess sickness is self-imposed, or I guess maybe sometimes it is part of the soul contract, let's just say, but overall, sickness is self-imposed. How can we go about healing ourselves?
well, I'll give you some really good examples. Sickness, there are different forms of sickness. I don't want to say that we, live in a very toxic environment. We can't always, there are areas of this, you know, world, unfortunately, where we don't have um, enough money to, eat appropriately. I mean, and even when we do, right? I just ate a whole bunch of chips before I came on this show. So, so there is a lot of toxic overload, but trying to detoxify yourself, one of them is drinking distilled water. And then, you know, that's another part of it. Water, is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. We are giant batteries, okay? Our physical being, is made up of like 98% water. And water has some sort of molecular structure that actually has healing properties. We can put intention into water. So one thing, if you're feeling kind of icky, sluggy, you know, like getting that cold, that yuckiness, you can put intention into water by speaking into a glass of water, telling the water what feels, can you heal this part of my body? Or I'm really mucusy here, that sort of thing, and drinking it. That really helps in staying hydrated. And trying to detoxify ourselves by eating, having better diets, is another thing. But we are a battery, and we are, this vessel is a communication tool. So, definitely seeking out a QHHT hypnotherapist to help you navigate, but I can give you some quick and dirties. Uh, your higher self, your guardian angels and your guides, as I've been saying, are always trying to speak to you. They have given you the signs are all around you. Okay. When you do not listen and you are really far off your path, the one that you've written for yourself, and you are in that state of, and it always is typically you are unhappy with what's going on with your life, they will start trying to speak through your body. So one thing that I'll see people and they'll say, oh, my knees hurt, or my feet hurt, or my legs hurt. And the first thing I think of is, what are you not moving forward with in your life? And that's a really literal. A lot of times, lower back pain, is indicative of you're carrying way too heavy of a load, whatever that is in your life. Many times, cancer, different forms of cancer, depending on it, where it is in your body. Almost all the time, cancer is a manifestation of something you are really upset about that you're not saying, that you're not getting out. You have all of these emotions and you're not expressing them, and they've grown and are become stagnant in your body and metastasize in different areas. If you have, thyroid issues, what are you not speaking? What is your truth that you're not saying? What is it that maybe you are saying, but you don't feel like you're being heard? Or eye issues are typically, what is it you don't want to see? So these are these are different, scenarios that I see in practice that I work with clients on. Some things, we know, people have contracted, to come in with. Some people, people that are born with disabilities. I mean, you know, think of the amount of lessons and teachings you would do in one lifetime. I mean, having disabilities. We know some of that stuff we have contracted. And some things, we contract over, through, over time. But um, if you want to heal, if you want to see if you can change any parts of those contracts, if you want to see why you wrote that into your contract, if you seek out a QHHT hypnotherapist, we can go back and, we can even review your contract. I actually did that with one of my clients. I had her rewind time to right before she came in. and she was talking with God, and Jesus was there. And all of the people, she was telling me that she was looking around, and everyone, and many faces she didn't know, because she was probably going to meet them still, were there, and they were receiving their last instructions. And I had her talk out loud about what was in her contract coming into this incarnation. So she would have it because I tape the sessions and I give the session tape to the individual, so she could hear it and remember it. So,
I think it's pretty cold-blooded for our bodies to be used for signals. So, I mean, going on the record here, I don't want my higher self using my body to just, show me a billboard or show me a commercial. Don't make that manifest into sickness in my body. Come on, that's cold-blooded.
well,
I
we
guess we
are.
have no choice.
Well, no, no, we are always doing it to ourselves. I mean, when I talk to people, I'm like, really, you didn't know? I mean, so this and this and this has been happening, and you really didn't know. A lot of times, um, I see people that um, have it is due to some sort of relationship issue. I've seen a lot of people for that. I had, one woman who her husband kept cheating on her, and she developed, something wrong with her female part. And as she was talking, she kept talking about, well, he cheated on me because of this. And then she cheated on me because of this. And, all these things happened in his life. And as we're working through the therapy part of it, uh, I'm kind of circling back to, reminding her that we all are in charge of ourselves. Like, you know, put one person in the same case or 10 people in the same scenario, all going to do it differently. We're all in charge. Nothing makes us do anything. But she all of a sudden started telling me, she's like, I think this is why I'm having all of these female issues. And she's right. I mean, she was absolutely right. And she was able to take care of them in a session by acknowledging that and realizing it, because she knew it all along. It just began to physically manifest in that area.
Yeah. When you're tapping in, have you ever seen anything that you can feel like a higher vibration as you're touching into different kind of energies?
I would have to say, well, everything feels very differently. Like, this is typical when I'm working with people in QHHT, it's almost 100% percent of the time, their higher self that's coming in. And
Hmm.
that always feels the same. When I'm working with people during Reiki, um, or when I'm channeling or, talking with people, um, angels they all feel differently. I don't want to say, and this is something that's really important. Um, you know, Nothing and no one is higher than anything. It's just different experience. Like what we are, we're actually our guardian angels and guides look at us as just, I mean, they can't understand why we don't see what they see, because they see us as absolute equals, just like our higher self does. Um, it's just completely different vibrational frequencies. I think some things are, the higher self, when I feel the higher self coming in, it's expansive is the only way I can describe it. It's a huge, huge presence, because it is the part of us that is connected to God. So it feels like very godlike. It's huge. I mean, it's just. I'm not sure how to quite explain it, but it's a feeling that um, I've never felt.
There is a difference in the feeling though. So like when you like you were saying earlier, you just felt this strength, this kind of a different vibration when the higher self came in.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. And that's
Do you have
that's
any? Go ahead.
oh, it's the higher self is, you are the higher self is not only just that part of you. It's the higher self is also your connection to God. So I think every time the higher self has ever come in, the first thing that happens is I'll start to have like tears run out of my eyes because it doesn't hurt. It is like it's love. It's pure love is what it feels like.
Wow. Do you have any wild, I guess you can consider quote unquote wild QHHT moments or stories?
One of the first ones I did, I had a woman who was supposed to go in for knee surgery, and she had her cartilage was completely deteriorated in both knees. And when we were done, they had rebuilt her the knee, her cartilage in her knees. I thought that, just from starting out, I thought that was like, amazing to me. I couldn't believe it. But I really, the one story that, the woman I was kind of telling you about how we actually, she went through a lot of past lives and her guardian angels and guides were there. It wasn't actually, she didn't go through past lives. She went through her current life as a child and she was going through these different stages of growth. And as she was going through them, um, she was talking in that childlike voice because she was different ages as she was under. And because she was actually, experiencing that area of life again. And when we got to her higher self, right before her higher self, I had said, I had asked her, is there anything else we need to see here? And she said no. And I thought this is a great opportunity to look at her soul contract. And so I just talked with her about let's go back to before you were born, right before you came into this life. And all of a sudden, the room just slowly started to, it's almost like the lights were slowly starting to be turned up. And that's happened a couple of times where the room has gotten lighter. So I knew we were really close to maybe an angelic source or maybe source itself, God or, something like that. And tears started running out of her eyes. And I said, and I just prompted her, I said, you can talk, you can speak. And she said, there is a man here and it looks like Jesus. And I said, well, why don't you ask him who he is? And it was. And she just, I mean, as she was laying there talking with me, just her whole, I mean, tears were just running out of her eyes. And she kept talking about how she could feel the love. And then she looked up and she said, God was there. And I said, well, what is God saying? And she said, He's giving us our last instructions before we come into this life. And I had her look around and just say, who's with you? Because it was all being recorded. And I wanted to make sure she remembered. And she was naming off people. And then there was people that she didn't know. And she I said, talk about your soul contract. She was naming off the different lessons that she needed to learn. And she looked over and Jesus was standing next to her. And she just put her hand out and she was just, I mean, tears were just running down her face. And she was just talking about, you know, understanding that we are all together in this. We are every single one of us, and that this is all for us. It's just all love. And, she went through that whole thing, and then we went to her higher self, and her higher self was hilarious. I mean, her higher self was talking, and I mean, we were chatting like we had known each other forever. And she, I mean, was laughing, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I tell her all the time, don't do this." And she's so stubborn. And I mean, it was probably one of the best sessions I had had in a long time. So it was a,
That sounds beautiful.
yeah, it was a really, it's really great work. And the great part about it is anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
So let's get into that. So do you believe that we all have that channeling power?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I know we all do. We have abilities you cannot even fathom. And the more you work on tuning in to yourself and, you know, asking your guardian angels and guides to be a part of that work and working with them, the more your gifts come in. And people have amazing gifts. I meet the most amazing healers. I mean, I work with groups of them, and I am just every time I'm just blown away by their abilities. I mean, some of them have the ability of sight, and they can see everything. They can see different people. They can see people and things that I cannot see. Some of them have full channeling capability of not only guardian angels and guides, but aliens, different beings. I mean, some of them talk clearly with animals, and you can actually see the animals like, oh, thank God someone's, can talk with me, and how they're like communicating. I mean, everyone has just many capabilities. It just takes belief in yourself, really.
And the time, I would love to do it, but I got a lot on my plate. You had mentioned earlier the soul contracts, and I find it very interesting, these, these contracts and potentially reviewing and altering them. When you are reviewing, let's just say the last example you gave, the life contract, what does it look like? Is it an overall theme? How detailed is it, just from what you've seen so far?
It isn't very detailed. I mean, it's basically like the things, her contract, she needed to learn to love herself. She needed to learn empathy. She needed to have learn compassion for others. It was funny because all of the things that she was saying, she had a father who was a cross-dresser, and it was really not accepted in her, I'm working with like a 60-year-old woman. It was not accepted at that time. And so, she really did not have a relationship for quite a while because of all of the input from other people. But then really, began to, when he was at the end of his life, understand and develop that empathy, compassion and understanding for other people. I thought back to as she was going through life, some of the things like she had some really negative people in her life that were not so nice to her, and the more she pushed against them and kind of like was that tit for tat reactionary, like they do something, I would do something, the worse things got. And she talked a lot about that. And then she also talked about, as we were talking, before she did the hypnosis, how she finally came to the understanding that, hey, you know what, these people aren't very well, obviously, and I need to, understand that maybe they can't be in my life, but I can understand that they're just unwell individuals and I don't need to hold ill will. So it was almost like that. You know what I mean? We work with um, we work together to help each other understand these lessons, but we can't exactly, you can't, I mean, as you know, you can't just tell someone to be empathetic. You kind of have to learn it. So the soul contracts are really that. And then, it's learning these big things, um, like forgiveness, I mean, and there's many different levels of forgiveness, right?
Would you
Um,
say that our higher mind, in a way, they lack empathy, and so they have to split off to experience what it is to be empathetic?
I think us, which we are our higher minds, um, are kind of like, I would explain it like this. Um, as souls coming into this earth for the first time, we did not, uh, we didn't have that capability because we had never experienced it. And so that's why we elected to learn all of these things because as we do, you know, we become more knowledgeable, more understanding, we grow more, right? I mean, if you think about where you were 10 years ago and the small lessons that you've learned, I mean, you've expanded quite a bit. And so I think that's why we have all of these, different types of lessons that we have chosen so we can grow. And as we grow and go on, we can be other things. Maybe, we can be guardian angels if we so choose. We can be keepers of, the Akashic records. We can be worlds. I mean, we can be a universe if we wanted to, but we can't start as a universe. We kind of have to work our way into it.
I guess, yeah, I can understand that. So it's not so much that our higher mind or our higher soul lacks empathy, is that they are everything. So they already are empathetic, but they would like the journey of learning to be empathetic.
Mhm. I mean, there's a
Beautiful.
part of us, yeah, there's a part of us that has to learn this because think of it this way. I mean, we all are all, right? We're all connected to source. But there was a time a long time ago that I decided I want to go on and I want to be a planet, let's say. I want to be Jupiter. But to be Jupiter, I would have to support life. I'd have to understand all life to be able to support all life. So before I can do that, I have to be a stone. I have to understand what it's like to be a stone. And I have to understand, you know what I mean? And kind of
Hmm.
grow that way to become expansive, if that makes sense. But I'm always connected to everything. But to be my own kind of entity and become something else, I have to start out at the beginning.
I believe I read something like that in one of the Dolores Cannon books back in the day about like life as a rock. I believe like the experience of being a rock, and they spoke about the beauties that it was to be a rock and sit in that stillness. And there was many different things, I guess, many things that popped in my head when you mentioned the starting from scratch, because if you want to be the planet, you have to be the rock. But also, like, she spoke of stories of people that were dolphins, and just the beauty of having to live out life through the energy or the life of a dog or, a tree. And slowly but surely, you become the God that you always have been, but now you are ascending into the being, the all that is, with the experience of what it is to be all that is. Magical,
Hmm.
really. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel that when you go into these sessions with these clients of yours that maybe you can take on some of those energies or maybe like other entities because you are in a way opening up some kind of portal, right? Do you feel that maybe they can get attached to you in some way?
No. I know that there are people that have different types of attachments. I don't, I myself don't ever worry about that. I am very much, um, I very much believe and understand that I am in control of myself. I wouldn't allow it. And so it does not ever happen. Um, People that have, the Dolores can QHHT is very like, no, attachments never happen. That never occurs. That is a made up thing. But in my experience and a lot of other healers' experiences, attachments do happen, and the way that they happen is because the individual has manifested it. You may uh, you may physically say, I don't want something attached to me. However, all of your actions have caused it. So, one thing that pops into my mind, someone that is, has a lot of uh, attachment issues would be, your typical person, not always, and I don't want to say this, and this is just one case scenario. Someone that is a severe, severe alcoholic or drug addict, um, by all of the things that they have done to get to that point in their life, they have formed an energetic, attachment with, all of that negative energy, all of that, the sadness they've caused, the frustration they've caused, the helplessness. Now, that attachment to them is not forcing them to keep drinking. They can choose at any point, drinking or doing drugs. They can choose at any point to not do that, to go get help. I'm not saying it's easy, but we do sometimes see attachments that way. Or I did in a Reiki session, I had a couple other practitioners working with me, and there was a woman there who had a couple of attachments, and they were actually entities that in previous lives had been working with her. She was a very, 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 very advanced spiritual being, um, who was, she had many, many, many different types of abilities, very, very advanced. But she actually had a couple of entities that were constantly protecting her. And as she reincarnated, in her last, few lives, she had been killed. She had been burned once as a witch. She had also been murdered in another life. And those entities were so stressed out about it, they were forming like this circle of protection around her constantly that was almost inhibiting some of her capabilities, her growth. And so instead of a lot of people, approach entity attachment as this negative thing, like, oh, we have to like cut it off or chop it off. All of my experiences as working with any type of attachment disorder is anything that is attached is, either because one, you've called it to be, you've asked it to be there, or two, you've manifested it to be there. And so you really are the one, like with this woman, we just said to, had her tell them, hey, thanks so much for being here and protecting me. I really can do it from here. I'm glad that you were with me through whatever. And then in solidarity planted, two or three flowers for them. And when they realized that, she was strong enough to stand on her own, they left. Um, I would, most QHHT practitioners would say that attachments aren't true. But I've talked to quite a few people where we have found attachments. So I don't know. I mean, it is a thing. It happens. So
Yeah, it's kind of scary. You know, you had mentioned something in regards to fear, and it was very powerful. You had stated that fear is a play emotion. Would you like
Mhm.
to expand on that?
Yes. So fear is we are given all of these different emotions, uh, really to experience life, at all different angles and depths of life. Some of them are just emotions like play emotions, and fear is one of them. Fear is actually our biggest one. So fear is not a real emotion. It's something that, I tell people fear is what you use when you watch those scary movies. But the, you know, we kind of, as humans, because it is such an expansive emotion, we use fear whenever we don't understand. Um, so if you have already gone through something in life, um, you've already, you know, gone through it. There's nothing to fear, right? You've already gone through it, you've been through it, you've already tackled it. So, you don't have to fear it because you've already done it. And in the present time, you know, you don't really fear whatever is going on. It's maybe you don't understand it, or you're curious about it, or it makes you sad. But it's not fear because you're presently dealing with it. So you can't really, it's not nothing to fear there. Um, and if you look ahead, how can you fear anything that hasn't happened? I mean, it hasn't happened. You don't know what's going to happen 5 seconds from now. So there's nothing to fear there. So fear is one of those play emotions that we use kind of as a paintbrush whenever we are, don't understand something. If something kind of startles us, if we don't want to look at something, if we feel something is too difficult, instead of looking at it as, maybe a place, of curiosity, we kind of take out our paintbrush and we just use fear. We paint fear over the top of it. And which really restrains and holds us back because it freezes us where we are. I always tell people that if you're feeling fearful of something, you know, I mean, really, and I explain that fear is one of those play emotions that isn't a real thing. Um, to look into that and try to replace, that emotion with curiosity or um, a want to understand. Look at it exactly for what it is. But yeah, yeah, fear is fake.
Yeah, it's a tool that you can utilize to go within a bit more. I think that's beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your TikTok journey. So you've been promoting yourself on TikTok. Has this been something that's been going on for a while now, or you've been consistent with it for quite a while?
I started out doing some YouTube channels, and my guardian angels and guides kept telling me, you need to get out there, you need to get out there, you need to, you don't have anything to fear. I mean, that's what they were saying to me. And because when I first started this, about a year and a half ago, it was really difficult. I was really afraid, I guess not at the time I felt afraid, but I was really, feeling like, would I be accepted? Would people even want to hear anything that I had to say? And what would people say? So I started out doing some YouTubes and I really never got a following, so I just stopped it. And I kept getting pushed to do something else. Like I needed to have an online presence. And so a friend of mine who was a medium said to me, listen, she called me one morning and she goes, listen, I just got a download, and she said it was from my guardian angel, and they're insistent that I call you and tell you to start getting on TikTok. And I started laughing, and she's like, they're very insistent that you need to. And so it has really helped me, um, become more comfortable, not only in my spirituality, but talking with people. So now, it helped me go from kind of that shy aspect of myself to really grounding into, my confidence and feeling, good about myself and feeling good about the work that I've been doing. So I like to just pop on TikTok whenever I kind of feel called. Sometimes I'll talk about QHHT, sometimes I'll talk about my experiences, or, if I'm kind of like I'm at the cabin this weekend or this week. I'll just do oracle card readings and that sort of thing. And I think it just, it kind of gets people thinking a little bit about what else is out there. And that's one of the things that, you know, when I run into people, they will say to me is, wow, just hearing you makes me think like, what else could I learn? What else could I learn about? And I really like that.
Well, the important thing is that you're putting in the action and you're putting in that work. Whether you received it through divine messages or whatnot, you are doing what you need to do to get your message out, and that's a beautiful thing. Where else can people find you?
Well, I have, of course, my QHHT with Stefanie TikTok. I also have a business that's called Everest Collective, and that is in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We have an Everest Collective community, which is a Facebook page, and that's where we list a lot of our classes, fun things that we do. You can schedule Reiki sessions, you can schedule, QHHT through me. We have astrologers and people that do Chinese medicine, and I mean, just a lot of cool things. Or if you want to look a little bit of, look at a little window into my life, you can find me on Facebook also at Stefanie, which is Stefanie, Lnellen, Turk, on Facebook. And that's kind of my personal page, but it's everything that I want to be open is on there. We're also working on a website for our business, and yeah, so that's kind of where you can find me.
I'll definitely add that information in the video description so that people can have a look at what you have going on. Um, and I guess I'll leave you with one last question. So, what's one message you would like to leave our listeners with?
You know, I really, really, really feel strongly whenever I work with people to get this main thing across, and it's that we are always 100% of the time in control of ourselves, the way we show up in the world, who we are, our thoughts, um, our emotions. Nothing else around us controls us. We are our driving force for every single thing that happens in our lives and how we choose to react to that. And we can change any time we want, and we can heal ourselves too. It really doesn't have to be that hard.
Wonderful. Stephanie, it was a true pleasure to speak with you today and get to know you a little bit more. I look forward to see your growth and continue to see you pushing out your message and living a life, of purpose. And I hope to do an episode in the future, episode number 2, to see how your journey has played out and what you have that has blossomed from this. And thank you for your time tonight.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, and I cannot wait to talk with you again.
Now, we definitely will talk soon. Thank you once again for your time. You have a great night.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.